Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Time English. I'm Anna.
And I'm Mark. It's so good to be back with you for another episode. How are you, Anna?
I'm great, thanks. I've been thinking a lot about decisions lately, how we make them, and what happens when we make the right or wrong one.
Ah, decisions. That's a big part of life, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're talking about today, making decisions. And we'll also be looking at a really useful grammar point, the first conditional.
That's right. The first conditional is perfect for talking about future possibilities. So if you've ever said something like, "If I study hard, I'll pass the exam," then congratulations, you've used the first conditional.
Exactly. But don't worry. We'll explain everything step by step. And to help us understand it better, we're going to listen to a short story from someone named Sarah who had to make an important decision recently.
Last month, I had to make a big decision. I was offered a new job in another city, about 300 kilometers from where I live now. It sounded exciting because the job is in a company I really admire, and the position is a big step forward in my career. But at the same time, I felt nervous because I've never lived far from home. I spent a few days thinking about it. I talked to my friends and my parents. They all gave me good advice, but in the end, it had to be my choice. I made a list of the good and bad things. On one side, I wrote things like new experience, better salary, and chance to grow. On the other side, I wrote far from family, new city, and starting over. In the end, I decided to say yes. I didn't want to miss the opportunity just because I was scared of change. Now, I'm preparing to move. If I find a nice apartment close to work, I'll feel more relaxed during the week. If I like the new team, I'll enjoy my work more and probably learn a lot. If I keep an open mind, I know I'll meet new friends and feel at home faster. Of course, I don't know exactly what will happen. There might be some hard days at first, but if I stay positive and take things step by step, I believe things will work out just fine. If the first few weeks go well, I think I'll be really glad I made this choice. This move is a challenge, but also a chance. If I never try new things, I'll never know what I'm capable of.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a really thoughtful story. And it's a perfect example of how we use the first conditional to talk about real possibilities in the future.
Exactly. Sarah said things like, "If I find a nice apartment, I'll feel more relaxed. And if everything goes well, I think I'll grow a lot as a person." These are real situations that might happen, and she's thinking about the possible results.
Let's break it down for our listeners. The first conditional is used when we want to talk about something that could really happen in the future. Not a dream, not a guess, something that's actually possible.
The structure is simple. If plus present simple, and then will plus base verb. For example, if I move to a new city, I'll make new friends.
Right, and it works the other way around too. You can say, "I'll make new friends if I move to a new city." Both are correct.
Let's do some practice together. But this time, instead of quick examples, we'll use full sentences, just like Sarah did. It will sound more natural and show how we use this grammar in real life.
If I ever move to a different city, I know I'll feel nervous at first, but I'll try to stay open to new experiences.
If I get offered a job in another place, I'll take some time to think about it. Big decisions like that need careful thought.
If the new apartment is in a good area, I'll feel more comfortable living there. Safety and location matter a lot to me.
If I meet friendly coworkers at my new job, I'll feel more confident and motivated to work hard.
And if everything goes well during the first month, I'll start to feel like I really belong there.
These kinds of conditional sentences help us imagine the future clearly. And they're great for talking about goals, plans, or even challenges, just like Sarah did.
Let's do a quick review before we finish. The first conditional is used for real and possible situations in the future. The structure is if plus present simple, will plus base verb.
Here are two examples. If I prepare well, I'll do great in my interview. If the weather is nice, I'll go for a walk.
Now it's your turn. After the episode, try writing 3 sentences using the first conditional about your own life. Maybe about school, work, or something you're planning.
And that's it for this episode of Talk Time English.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned something useful today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talk Time English. I'm Mark.
And I'm Anna. Thanks for joining us again. We're so happy you're here.
Today's topic is something we all think about every single day: food.
Yes, food is one of our favorite things to talk about. We eat it, we enjoy it, and we even dream about it sometimes.
That's true. In this episode, we'll talk about what we eat every day, how to say what foods we like and don't like, and we'll learn some simple and useful vocabulary to describe meals.
Plus, we have a special guest who's going to tell us about her favorite foods and eating habits.
So, if you're hungry for some fun English practice, let's get started.
Before we get into grammar and vocabulary, let's listen to our guest. His name is Diego, and he's from Mexico. He's going to tell us about his daily meals and what he likes to eat.
Hi everyone, my name is Diego. I'm from Mexico City. In my country, food is a big part of our culture. We love to eat and cook together. In the morning, I usually eat pan dulce, which is sweet bread, and I drink coffee. Sometimes I have eggs with tortillas too. For lunch, which is our biggest meal of the day, I often eat tacos, rice, beans, and meat. My favorite dish is enchiladas. They are tortillas filled with chicken and covered in sauce. In the evening, I eat something light like soup or fruit. On weekends, I love to eat out with my friends. We go to local restaurants and try different foods. I really like spicy food and I love guacamole. But I don't like sweet drinks. I prefer water or tea.
Thank you, Diego. That made me really hungry.
Me too. I'd love to try enchiladas one day. Now let's go over some of the words and grammar Diego used.
Diego mentioned some common foods: sweetbread, tortillas, rice and beans, chicken soup and fruit. When Diego talked about his meals, he used the present simple tense. For example, I eat pan dulce. I drink coffee. I love spicy food.
We use the present simple to talk about things we do regularly, like our daily meals or food habits. For he, she, or it, remember to add s to the verb. He eats lunch at 1 p.m. She drinks tea every evening. Now let's learn how to order food at a restaurant. These are polite phrases you can use. I'd like a sandwich, please. Can I have a glass of water? What do you recommend? Could I see the menu, please? I'm ready to order.
Let's do a little role play. I'll be the customer and you're the waiter.
Okay, let's go.
Hi, can I see the menu, please?
Of course. Here you are. Are you ready to order?
Yes, I'd like a bowl of soup and some bread, please.
Great choice. Would you like anything to drink?
Just water, please.
Coming right up.
That was fun. Listeners, try practicing this conversation with a friend or even by yourself.
It's a great way to build your confidence. Anna, what's your favorite food?
Oh, I love pasta, especially spaghetti with tomato sauce. What about you?
I think my favorite is sushi. It's fresh, light, and tasty.
And what don't you like?
I don't like olives. I don't know why.
Ha ha ha, I love olives. Everyone's taste is different.
All right. That's all for today's episode of Talk Time English.
Thanks for joining us, and don't forget,
Practice every day and have fun with it. See you next time. Bye-bye.
thanks again for joining us. Let's jump right into today's topic. We've got something really useful and super common in everyday English: reported speech.
Yes. You'll hear this all the time when people talk about what someone else said. It's a great way to share information and sound more fluent.
To help us understand how it works, we have a story from David. He just started a new job and had a lot of conversations in his first week. He's going to tell us about them, but not by quoting people directly. He'll be using reported speech.
As you listen, notice how he changes the sentences when he talks about what people said. That's the key to reported speech. Let's hear his story.
Last week was my first week at a new company. I was nervous, but also really excited. On my first day, my manager Lisa welcomed me and said, "We're happy to have you here." Later, I told my friend, Lisa said they were happy to have me there. At lunch, a colleague named Sarah asked me, "Do you want to join us for coffee?" I thanked her and later told my roommate, Sarah invited me to join them for coffee. There were a lot of new things to learn. One of the IT guys told me you need to reset your password every month. So I made a note and told myself, he said I needed to reset my password monthly. By Friday, I felt more confident. My manager told me, "You've done a great job this week." And I told my parents, Lisa said I had done a great job. It felt really good to hear that. Starting a new job can be hard, but when people are kind, it makes everything easier.
Thank you, David. That was a great story and a perfect example of how we use reported speech in everyday life.
Yes. Let's break it down for our listeners. So, what is reported speech?
Reported speech is how we talk about what someone else said. Instead of quoting their exact words, we report or repeat what they said in our own words.
Right. For example, instead of saying, Lisa said, "You've done a great job," David said, "Lisa said I had done a great job."
And when we do this, we often need to change the verb tense. This is called backshifting. Let's go through a few examples from David's story and explain how the grammar works.
Let's start with the sentence. Lisa said, "We are happy to have you here."
When David repeated it, he said, "Lisa said they were happy to have me there."
See what changed? Where became they were, and here became there. These are common changes in reported speech.
Yes, and how about this one? "You've done a great job" became, "She said I had done a great job."
Exactly. Present perfect changes to past perfect. You've done, I had done.
And questions. In reported speech, we don't use the question form anymore. For example, Do you want to join us for coffee? Becomes, she asked if I wanted to join them for coffee.
Nice. The verb do you want changes to if I wanted. And notice that us changes to them. Pronouns often change in reported speech, depending on who's speaking.
Now let's practice some sentences in context. No questions, just natural speech using reported speech.
I'll start. My friend told me he would call me later, but he forgot. So I sent him a message.
Yesterday, my neighbor said she had seen a fox in the street. I couldn't believe it.
My boss told me we had a meeting at 9 a.m., but I thought it was at 10. Oops.
Last weekend, my cousin said she had never been to the beach, so we planned a trip.
When I asked my brother if he was coming for dinner, he said he wasn't sure. Classic.
That was great. Reported speech is all about paying attention to who said what and changing the structure just enough so it fits your sentence.
Let's quickly review what we've learned today.
Reported speech helps us explain what someone else said. We often change the pronouns, time expressions, and verb tenses.
For example, I am tired becomes he said he was tired. She has finished becomes he said she had finished. Do you like pizza? Becomes she asked if I liked pizza.
Exactly. It can feel tricky at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
That's it for today's episode of Talk Time English. We hope you enjoyed the story and learned something useful.
And don't forget, after this episode, try reporting a conversation you had this week. What did someone say to you? Try repeating it using reported speech.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Time English.
My name's Anna.
And I'm Mark. How are you today, Anna?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for asking. How about you, Mark?
I'm doing really well, too. And I'm excited because today's topic is something everyone can relate to: daily routines.
That's right. Today, we'll talk about what people do every day, and we'll learn how to use the simple present tense to describe routines. We'll also look at some common time expressions like in the morning and at night.
But before we dive into grammar, let's hear from our guest, Lisa from Canada. She's going to tell us about her typical day.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm from Canada. I'm a student and I also work part-time. My day usually starts early. I wake up at 6:30 a.m. and I take a shower right away. After that, I eat breakfast, usually toast and coffee. I leave the house at 7:30 and take the bus to school. My classes start at 8 o'clock and finish at 2 p.m. After school, I go to work at a bookstore. I work there for 3 hours, and I usually get home around 6 o'clock. In the evening, I have dinner with my family, and then I do my homework or watch a TV show. I usually go to bed at 10:30. It's a busy day, but I like it.
Thank you, Lisa. That was really interesting. Now let's talk about some of the grammar Lisa used.
Good idea. Lisa used the simple present tense to talk about her daily routine. For example, she said, I wake up at 6:30 a.m. and I take a shower.
That's right. The simple present is used for things we do regularly. We just use the base form of the verb. I wake up, you eat, they go, and so on.
But don't forget, when we talk about he, she, or it, we usually add an S to the verb, like he wakes up, she eats breakfast. It starts at 8 o'clock.
Exactly. Lisa also used time expressions like in the morning, at 6:30, and around 6 o'clock. These help us understand when something happens.
But don't forget, when we talk about he, she, or it, we usually add an S to the verb, like he wakes up, she eats breakfast, it starts at 8 o'clock.
Exactly. Lisa also used time expressions like in the morning, at 6:30, and around 6 o'clock. These help us understand when something happens.
Let's practice a bit. I'll say an activity, and you tell me the correct verb form for he. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Wake up.
He wakes up.
Great. Next one. Eat breakfast.
He eats breakfast.
Perfect. Now, before we finish, let's share our routines. Anna, what time do you usually wake up?
I usually wake up at 7 a.m. And you?
I wake up a bit earlier, at 6:30. Then I take a walk and have breakfast.
That sounds like a healthy start. Well, that's all for today's episode.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget to practice talking about your own routine in English.
Welcome back, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us again for another episode of Talk Time English. Today's episode is one I've really been looking forward to.
Me too. Because today we're talking about something fun, useful, and often confusing for English learners. Idioms.
Exactly. Idioms are phrases where the meaning is different from the individual words. They make English sound more colorful and natural, but they're not always easy to understand.
That's true. And today, we'll also look at a grammar point that helps us give extra information in a sentence, non-defining relative clauses.
So, 2 useful things in one episode. First, let's hear from our guest, Claire. She's an English teacher who talks about some idioms she's used in class and how students reacted.
Last week, I was teaching my class about English idioms. One student, who always asks great questions, looked very confused when I said, "It's a piece of cake." He thought I was actually talking about food. So I explained that a piece of cake is an idiom, which means something is very easy. Another funny moment happened when I said break a leg before a student presentation. They looked shocked. So I had to explain that it doesn't mean they should get hurt. It actually means good luck. My students, who are very curious and always eager to learn, started collecting their favorite idioms. One girl said her favorite was spill the beans, which means to tell a secret. Teaching idioms is always fun. They show how creative language can be, and they also teach us about culture. My students, who come from many different countries, also shared idioms from their own languages. It was a great discussion.
Thanks, Claire. That was a great story. And it's true. Idioms can be confusing at first, but also fun to learn.
Yes. I loved how Claire said a piece of cake and spill the beans. Those are such classic idioms.
Let's take a moment to talk about the grammar we heard. Non-defining relative clauses.
These are parts of a sentence that give us extra information, but they are not essential to the meaning. They usually come in the middle or end of the sentence and are separated by commas.
And we use words like who, which, and where to connect them. For example, Claire said, one student who always asks great questions looked very confused.
That's right. The part who always asks great questions gives us more information about the student, but the sentence would still be complete without it.
Another example from Claire was, my students who come from many different countries also shared idioms from their own languages. Again, the extra detail is helpful, but not essential.
And remember, in non-defining clauses, we don't use that. We use who for people and which for things.
Let's practice now. We'll use idioms and non-defining relative clauses together, just like in real conversation.
I'll go first. My brother, who loves to sleep in on weekends, said the new morning job was a tough nut to crack.
Nice. Here's mine. Our teacher, who always has great stories, told us that passing the exam would be a walk in the park if we studied well.
One of my colleagues, who recently started learning English, was confused when I said, "Don't cry over spilled milk."
Great one. And here's another. My friend who moved to Canada last year says that making new friends there was no bed of roses at first.
Very natural examples. These structures make our speech smoother and give a lot of extra detail.
So, what did we learn today? First, idioms can help you sound more fluent, but you need to learn their meanings because they're not literal.
And second, non-defining relative clauses help us add extra information to a sentence without changing the main meaning. Just remember to use commas and don't use that.
Exactly. And as always, practice makes perfect. Try writing 3 sentences with idioms and non-defining relative clauses. You'll see how natural it feels.
To help you even more, we're going to say a few more sentences using idioms and non-defining relative clauses, just so you can hear how they sound in natural conversation.
Great idea. Let's go. My sister, who just got her driver's license, said her driving test was a piece of cake.
Our manager, who usually stays calm under pressure, told us to keep our cool during the meeting today.
My neighbor, who always gives great advice, reminded me not to bite off more than I can chew.
And one of my students, who always studies hard, said that passing the exam wasn't rocket science.
I love how idioms and grammar can come together so naturally. The more you hear them, the easier it gets to use them correctly.
Exactly. And don't worry if it feels tricky at first. That's totally normal. Just keep listening, keep practicing, and you'll get the hang of it.
And remember, you can rewind this episode, write down some examples, and even try using your favorite idioms when you speak or write in English.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a comment, tell a friend about the podcast, or share it with someone who's learning English.
Thanks for spending time with us today. We'll be back soon with another helpful episode, a new topic, and, of course, more fun with English.